Country superstar Toby Keith died of stomach cancer on February 5, 2024. In his 62 years of life, he made a major cultural impact, not just on country music, but on the world at large. Toby Keith was born in the small town of Clinton, Oklahoma, but he spent most of his childhood on a farm outside Oklahoma City. In between homes in the Sooner State, his family spent time in Fort Smith, Arkansas, where Keith's grandmother lived and owned Billy Garner's Supper Club. In a 2011 interview with the Oklahoman, Keith said of the club, "They don't even really have them anymore. It was a tavern up front and it only served beer, and you could pay cover from 6 o'clock on that night and go on into the back, and they had fine dining and a band and a dance floor." Keith's grandmother picked up the nickname Clancy, and her club's name changed to Clancy's Tavern. After Keith and his family returned to Oklahoma, they made regular visits back to his grandma's place. Keith always looked forward to going there, according to the Herald. He spent a summer helping out at Clancy's when he was 12. Watching bands play for the nightclub was what first made him want to become a musician. Keith would draw on his memories of Clancy's for his 2005 single Honky Tonk You, and he named his 15th album after the tavern. But he never actually got the chance to play there. His grandmother sold Clancy's only a few years after the summer Keith spent working there. Despite his youthful enthusiasm for music, it wasn't the career path Toby Keith initially planned on. According to an interview with Dan Rather, Keith's father and grandfather shared two vocations: military service and work in the Oklahoma oil fields.
When I came along in the 70s, there was no draft, so I went in the oil field.
According to Forbes, Keith's original plans were to go to college for petroleum engineering. He ended up going out into the fields as a derrick hand straight out of high school when the price of oil shot up at the end of the 1970s. According to 2 News Oklahoma, Keith's musical itch was scratched in those days by his band Easy Money, though a page from his day job could force him to leave even midway through a set. Keith graduated from derrick hand to operation manager, and he looked back on his time in the field as a positive experience in developing a strong work ethic. After the oil industry experienced a bust in the early 80s, Keith's father opted to retire from the business. Keith felt lost on his own, and he was soon unemployed. Work as a bricklayer and a semi-pro football player kept him going, but Keith ultimately decided to pursue music. Toby Keith's first self-titled album hit shelves in 1993, and it brought him immediate recognition. His first single, Should Have Been a Cowboy, reached #1 on the country song charts. One wonders if Keith's success with the track took the sting out of the real-life incident that inspired it. As Keith remembered it for The Boot, he and a group of 20 others were coming back from a pheasant hunt when they stopped at a steakhouse in Dodge City, Kansas. A highway patrolman he had met on the trip, Keith called him John, approached a young woman in Western clothes about a dance. She turned him down, but in less than 15 minutes, she took the floor with a young man with a similar taste in wardrobe. The patrolman took a ribbing from Keith's group over the rejection. At one point, someone in the group, who were all clad in hunting gear, remarked, "John, you should have been a cowboy." The line stuck in Keith's mind, along with the trip as a whole, which reminded Keith of the TV show Gunsmoke. The singer remembered thinking, "I bet you never heard Marshall Dillon say he had any woman problems." And so Keith's first hit was born. According to Forbes, Toby Keith's way into the country music scene was through a flight attendant who passed his demo tape to Harold Shedd, head of Mercury Records in the early 1990s. Shedd and Keith struck a $20,000 record deal, and when Shedd opened the Nashville division of Polydor, Keith followed. But corporate mergers eventually put Keith back under Mercury. The company's new boss, Luke Lewis, did not have the same passion for Keith's music as Shedd did. When Keith delivered a rough cut of his album How Do You Like Me Now in 1999, he was told that there wasn't a single hit on it. Lewis's antagonism toward his work didn't deter Keith, who decided that he'd rather walk and take his album with him. For $93,000, he got the rights back for How Do You Like Me Now and quickly took it over to the then-fledgling DreamWorks Records. They remained his label until 2004, when a series of mergers landed Keith back under Mercury and Lewis, an arrangement so off-putting that he was prepared to retire over it. Instead, Keith burnt through the remainder of his contract, then started his own label, Showdog. Should Have Been a Cowboy brought Toby Keith to the attention of country music fans, but courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue, the Angry American made his name known to just about everyone in 2002. The unapologetically angry response to 9/11 drew a divisive reaction from listeners. While some embraced its patriotism, others considered the song to be jingoism. The controversy was enough to cost Keith a spot on the guest list for ABC's 4th of July celebrations. According to The Boot, Keith admitted that courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue came from a place of anger. While working out, he became so offended by news coverage of the proper way to respond to the 9/11 attacks that he wrote out the lyrics on the back of a fantasy football sheet in just 20 minutes. He first performed the song for a group of Marines, but only after their commander told him that he should release it as a single did Keith decide to do so. The song wasn't wholly about 9/11. Keith's father, H.K. Covell, was a veteran, a yellow dog Democrat in Keith's description, and an outspoken opponent of what he perceived as thin-skinned softness in modern America. His death in a car accident in March 2001 affected Keith deeply and moved him to become more supportive of the military through USO tours. In 2013, Forbes declared Toby Keith country's $500 million man. His musical success enabled him to invest in other ventures and gave him a name that attracted partners. Don Maradino, a casino executive, first approached Keith about starting his own restaurant. And Keith didn't just slap his name on a building. He took an active hand in developing the menu for I Love This Bar and Grill, the name of which is a play on the title of one of his hits. The restaurant grew into a chain, though Keith's involvement and ownership varied from location to location.
They somehow fill a void in these cities.
According to Arizona Central, the chain was marred by abrupt closures and business controversies around 2015, and the official website lists only 2 remaining locations, both in Oklahoma. Keith had more lasting success with his record label Show Dog and his liquor brand Wild Shot Mezcal. The income from those ventures was good enough that Keith could afford the occasional gamble. According to the Herald, when a clothing factory near his home in Oklahoma was forced to close, he tried to bring it back in a sustainable way with no need to turn a profit. Unfortunately, no matter how the numbers were crunched, there was no way for a pair of jeans made in that factory to compete with the price of imported competition. In a 2013 interview with Forbes, Keith lamented, "Years ago, politics branded me as a cat that was an extreme right-wing guy. The nature of many of his lyrics had contributed to his image as a conservative, but Keith never claimed that label for himself, telling the Chicago Tribune in 2016, "I've never been a registered Republican." Keith's family was mostly Democrats, and he himself was actually a Democrat for most of his life, at least until 2008. Even after he left the Democratic Party, Keith registered as an independent. Even in the early 2000s, when Keith's lyrics and public statements regarding the war in Afghanistan helped him earn a reputation as conservative, he showed a more independent spirit. He was opposed to the Iraq War, according to The Atlantic, and he voiced no opposition to gay marriage or abortion. In 2017, Keith accepted an offer to perform at Donald Trump's pre-inaugural festivities. The singer framed the decision as one supporting the office, not the individual, and Newsweek noted that he criticized both Trump and Hillary Clinton during the 2016 campaign. His friend and collaborator Bobby Pinson told the Washington Post that the best political terms to describe Keith were Toby Crat and Toby Can. Courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue, the Angry American brought Toby Keith to a new level of public notoriety and also turned some people against him. For one, it set off a feud with Natalie Maines of the Chicks, known at the time as the Dixie Chicks. Maines not only found Keith's lyrics objectionable, but believed the song cast all country music in a bad light, according to the Los Angeles Daily News. Keith responded by showing an unflattering doctored photo of Maines with Saddam Hussein at his concerts. Maines responded in the form of an insulting t-shirt at the Academy of Country Music Awards, according to Wide Open Country. For his part, Keith considered the feud over after seeing a friend lose a child to cancer. He told World Entertainment News Network, "It seems so insignificant. I said enough is enough." Keith and the Chicks would have a chance to publicly make peace in 2008. According to the Mercury News, former Vice President Al Gore asked them to appear together in a TV spot to raise awareness of global warming. All parties agreed, but they couldn't get their schedules to line up and the idea fizzled out. It's easy to imagine Stephen Colbert, the well-meaning but inept conservative blowhard of the Colbert Report, listening to country music. But it might not be so easy to imagine the real-life Colbert who wears his love for Broadway musicals and The Lord of the Rings on his sleeve having the same appreciation. But not only was Colbert a fan of Keith's, the two formed an unlikely friendship over the years. Keith was one of the first musical acts to appear on the Colbert Report. The show's host told the Oklahoman, "I didn't know what to make of the boot up your ass guy, but something down deep told me, just relax, listen to what this man was going to say and sing, and I just might have a good time."
Anybody get a boot up their ass on this one?
No.
No? No?
No, there might be. Let me think.
No.
After his first appearance on the show, Keith told Colbert, "Hey man, you do a great job, whatever it is you do." Colbert loved the remark so much that for Christmas, his producer gave him a pillow with Keith's words stitched on it. Keith went on to make numerous appearances on Colbert's shows. For his part, Keith has expressed appreciation that Colbert looked past his media reputation to get his music. In 2015, Colbert inducted Keith into the Songwriters Hall of Fame. In 2003, Keith's longtime friend and guitar player Scott Webb went through unimaginable tragedy when his daughter Allison died of kidney cancer at the age of 2 years old. Keith was struck by the stories the Webb family had to share of the support and kindness shown to them by St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital in Tennessee. At the time, Keith told The Boot, "Oklahoma City doesn't have any of these things." So Keith looked to help Oklahoma families struggling with childhood cancer. He helped found the nonprofit Allie's House, named for Webb's daughter, in 2004. He also turned his annual Toby Keith and Friends Golf Classic into a fundraiser. In 2006, Keith established the Toby Keith Foundation to help develop cost-free housing for pediatric cancer patients. In 2013, the foundation opened the OK Kids Corral. The $20 million facility is situated near the Children's Hospital at Oklahoma University Medical Center and provides lodging for patients and their families. Keith has chosen to narrow the focus of his charitable endeavors to the fight against cancer. He told The Boot, "It's nice to have something you're married to, that's your calling. Instead of just having your foundation be scattered everywhere, it's like, mine goes over here to OK Kids Corral." Keith himself died from cancer. His foundation will surely continue to provide comfort to others with the disease.